A relationship that's unlikely to ever be further explored is Prince Rhaegar Targaryen and baby brother Viserys. They're both dead. Daenerys never got the chance to meet her eldest brother while he was still alive, because of the fact that Rhaegar died before Dany was ever born. But Viserys had 7 good years with the man he looked up to most. Only thing is, Viserys has a warped perception of reality. For how much he talked up his big bro to Daenerys while they were growing up, you would think they were close. Fact is, they barely knew each other. Even the closest characters to Rhaegar barely knew the man, according to Barristan Selmy, and Viserys was very far removed from his brother. 3 reasons for that: their father, the Mad King, their mother, Queen Rhaella, and Rhaegar himself removing himself from the equation. The 17-year gap between Rhaegar and Viserys seems odd, especially for a royal family desperate to repopulate the family tree after all the tragedies they brought onto themselves. Well, it wasn't for the king and queen not trying. A lot of miscarriages, stillbirths, and infant deaths rocked the family during the 17 years, a huge factor contributing to King Aerys II's descent into madness, though we always had a touch of insanity. The Mad King couldn't wrap his head around all the failed pregnancies his sister wife went through, becoming paranoid of everyone around him. Viserys was raised overly sheltered, protected from even Rhaella and Rhaegar, who the Mad King distrusted. Then there's Rhaella, who sheltered Viserys in her own way. Not from external dangers like assassins or kidnappers, but from the Mad King and the truth behind how batshit crazy he was. Viserys wasn't even allowed to attend his own brother's wedding to Princess Elia Martell. Of course, the Mad King didn't participate as well. By this point in the story, he was approaching peak madness, each stressful event only adding to his problems. When it became very clear how unwanted Rhaegar was in the Mad King's presence, he left for Dragonstone when Viserys was 4 years old. Rhaegar's level of popularity hadn't been seen within the Targaryen family for generations. He had his own faction at court without even wanting one. It's no wonder that Viserys didn't get the full picture, with so many fanboys and mommy Rhaella embellishing Rhaegar's accomplishments. Rhaegar was extremely intelligent, well-read, a good fighter, and played the harp. The only thing that made it into Viserys' ears was how superior he was compared to all other knights. Viserys believes mixing their blood with lesser mortals is beneath the dragon family. He said Sir Arthur Dayne was the only knight in the realm who was their brother's peer. Rhaegar was good, but not Arthur Dayne good. He didn't live up to that hype. He actually died in his first real battle outside of Tourney. Rhaegar trained out of his deep sense of duty and because of a prophecy he stumbled across as a child reading through old scrolls, making him believe that he needed to be a warrior. He would have preferred living his life as a quiet bookworm, playing his harp when in the mood. Viserys liked to talk Dany's ears off about dragons and how great their family was, particularly Rhaegar. Viserys didn't even realize their father was actually mad. He believed it all to be lies created by Robert Baratheon and his supporters. But eventually Dany realized his perspective on Rhaegar is missing key details. How could he beat Arthur Dayne's peer without ever really fighting and only winning 1 tourney? So when an old man from Westeros going by Whitebeard claims to have served her father and grandfather during the time on the Iron Throne, she jumps on the opportunity to ask what Rhaegar was truly like. The old man considered a moment. Able, that above all. Determined, deliberate, dutiful, single-minded. There is a tale told of him, but doubtless Sir Jorah knows it as well. I would hear it from you, as you wish, said Whitebeard. As a young boy, the Prince of Dragonstone was bookish to a fault. He was reading so early that men said that Queen Rhaella must have swallowed some books and a candle whilst he was in her room. Rhaegar took no interest in the play of other children. The maesters were awed by his wits, but his father's knights would jest sourly that Baelor the Blessed had been born again, until one day Prince Rhaegar found something in the scrolls that changed him. No one knows what it might have been, only the boy suddenly appeared early one morning in the yard as the knights were donning their steel. He walked up to Sir Willem Darry, the Master-at-Arms, and said, "I will require sword and armor. It seems I must be a warrior." And he was, said Dany, delighted. And like everything good, it's cut short from there. Whitebeard was an alias Barristan Selmy was given in the books, before revealing his true identity to Daenerys. He waited a while to test if she inherited the infamous Targaryen madness that inflicted Aerys and Viserys. While Viserys looks like a shorter, skinnier version of Rhaegar, he shares none of the same admirable qualities. Daenerys even mistakes the two in one of her visions. The truth is, Rhaegar would have avoided Viserys like he did his father. Barristan believes Rhaegar would be proud of Dany, but even being a Kingsguard member, Barristan's access into Rhaegar was limited. At a further point in the 3rd book, Dany requests some more stories of her unknown brother. "Tell me more of my brother Rhaegar if you would. I like the tale you told me on the ship of how he decided he must be a warrior. Viserys said that our brother won many tourneys. It's not meant for me to deny his grace's words. But," Dany said sharply, "tell me, I command it. Prince Rhaegar's prowess was unquestioned, but he seldom entered the lists. He never loved the Song of Swords the way that Robert did or Jaime. It was something he had to do, a task the world had set on him. He did it well, for he did everything well. That was his nature, but he took no joy in it. Men said that he loved his harp much better than his lance. He won some tourneys, surely, said Dany, disappointed. Dany did not want to hear about Rhaegar being unhorsed. But what tourneys did my brother win? The old man hesitated. He won the greatest tourney of them all. Viserys would just make shit up about his brother, blinded by his love for him and the delusions about how great their family is. There were some mixed feelings in there too about his older brother. Since Rhaegar and the Mad King could do no wrong in Viserys' eyes, he goes through hoops to rationalize how the two of them ended the Targaryens' dynasty. When it comes to Rhaegar's alleged kidnapping of Lyanna Stark, Viserys blames Dany for being born too late. She had denied it hotly, she remembered, going so far as to tell Viserys that it was his fault for not being born a girl. He beat her cruelly for that insolence. If I had been born more timely, he said, Rhaegar would have married me instead of Elia, and it would all have come out different. If Rhaegar had been happy in his wife, he would not have needed the Stark girl. And what was Barristan's response to all this nonsense? I'm not certain it was in Rhaegar to be happy. There was a melancholy to Prince Rhaegar, a sense, the old man hesitated again, of doom. He was born in grief, and that shadow hung over him all his days. Viserys had spoken of Rhaegar's birth only once. Perhaps the tale saddened him too much. It was the shadow of Summerhall that haunted him, was it not? Dany asked. Yes, and yet Summerhall was the place the prince loved best. Dany, Viserys, and Rhaegar's great-grandfather, King Aegon V, died at Summerhall in a fire during an attempt to resurrect dragons. King Aegon also lost a son in that fire, weakening the Targaryen family further. But just outside, Rhaella made it out in time to give birth to Rhaegar. For some sad boy reason, Rhaegar loves to visit the ruined castle in the Stormlands. This blunder by King Aegon hurts Viserys' pride in his house. Doom is a word associated with Rhaegar, just like Valyria. These moments between Dany and Barristan lore dumping on us make some of the best moments in the 3rd and 5th book, and Barristan is still alive and well in the books, so more of these chapters could very well make it into the Winds of Winter. Viserys' propaganda, based on only a handful of first-hand memories, has completely worn off, thanks to Barristan's honesty. But there's one character still alive who had a closer bond with Rhaegar, a former lord, Jon Cunnington, and he's nowhere near as unbiased as Barristan. Jon Cunnington and Rhaegar squared together, and by the way the chapters are written in the 5th book, it seems like the prince's charisma completely consumed Jon. This exiled former lord was so damn close to being a part of Dany's entourage, but for now, he's with Rhaegar's alleged son, Aegon. So we'll also be getting new layers to Rhaegar's mystery through Jon Cunnington's POV chapters. I think George Martin likes to keep Rhaegar shrouded in mystery. That's why we'll never get a Robert's Rebellion prequel. Even after they squared together, Rhaegar made a decision to spend 2 weeks at the Cunnington's castle in the Stormlands. So they got along well. Both Jon, Viserys, and Daenerys look past how poorly Rhaegar treated his wife Elia Martell and blame her for not being fit for his greatness. Crowds cheered for the prince 4 times louder than they did for their king, the same prince who abandoned his wife after just barely surviving birthing their son. How Viserys would have reacted to Rhaegar and Elia's son, Aegon, being hidden in Essos would have been an interesting read. Viserys was running around calling himself the true king of the 7 kingdoms. I don't think he would ever accept it as a living heir to Rhaegar. He would spaz out and call it treasonous lies, just like how he didn't accept Robert's reign. When Rhaegar finally did return to King's Landing after years away on Dragonstone and after the disappearance with Lyanna Stark, it didn't seem like he even reunited with his little brother Viserys. Rhaegar spoke with the newest member of the Kingsguard, Jaime Lannister, promising changes would be made, referencing the Mad King's reign, then rode off to fight Robert Baratheon with Barristan Selmy and Elia's uncle, Lewin Martell, by his side. Viserys tells Dany Rhaegar died fighting for the woman he loved, Lyanna Stark, who was betrothed to Robert. But I don't think Rhaegar was capable of love, just like how he didn't have it in him to be happy. His existence revolved around the promised prince prophecy. Something told him, either written down somewhere or a vision of his own, that the White Walkers were coming and dragons were needed. He believed his son Aegon is that promised prince. But one more Targaryen was needed to make the 3-headed dragon. With Elia not able to have any more children due to her frail health, Lyanna would be his next lover. The phrase ice and fire rang in his head.